fear and doubt oftentimes hold us back, especially when we have such a big decision to make, like moving to the African continent or investing here, and we are waiting for the perfect time. But if there's one thing I've learned is that there's no perfect time, and the most important thing is just to take action to make this work. And so, therefore, for today's topic, I also have Wayne from Plan Back to Africa with me here, and we both want to share our perspectives on this topic and show you that the time is right now to take actual action. So I see you in the talk.
All one decision away from changing our lives, and a lot of us don't even know it. And so I decided to speak about a very important topic that keeps so many of us stuck. The idea that there will be a perfect time and perfect conditions to start taking action, to start that business, to book that flight, to move to the African continent, whatever. And so today I want to share how I wasted years waiting for the perfect conditions and then finally accepted that the perfect time will never come and decided to do it anyway, to show up unprepared, to show up scared, to show up broke, to show up, not being ready and not having figured it all out. And I'm so happy that Marvin Greifenberg will join this live stream today. Marvin and I have founded Homebase Africa, the first and only private community and Airbnb training program for people who want to build a purpose driven real estate short term rental business, want to invest into the real estate industry on the continent, in the tourism sector, and want to build a purpose driven life on the continent. And so, Marvin, thanks again for joining. I Are you there, Marvin?
Yeah, sorry, either me or you froze. Sorry. Yeah. But
Yes.
thanks for having me, Winnie. Yeah. Looking
Yeah.
forward that we to this chat. It's a very important lesson I think that we all make at some point or like need to understand. So it's a very, very important topic that we're covering today.
Yes, thank you again for joining. And to my subscribers, my supporters, I'm so happy to announce that we will have Marvin more often on this channel now. We want to host regular live streams at least 3 times per week. And in case you were surprised, we did our first live stream in German a couple of days ago, and so many people were confused. The reason why we decided to also do live streams from time to time in Germany is because there is a big diaspora in Germany that is not necessarily from English speaking African countries, but maybe from West Africa. And we want to give them value as well, right? And inspire them as well. And so the reason why we started hosting more live streams is for the same reason why we started Homebase Africa, mainly to inspire others to stop waiting for the perfect time and finally take action and build your dream on the continent. And we want to show you how you can do that with short term rentals, with Airbnbs. And so, yes, Marvin, if you want to subscribe to his channel, which you definitely should, he's dropping gems all the time. He's coming from a business consultant background and has helped me to bring my business to the next level, and also generally inspired me to, be more strategic, more focused. And yeah, the description, it's in the description, yeah, where you find his channel. Please subscribe to his channel. All right, Marvin, I am very, very inspired by you, as you know, as you have take the leap at a time where most of us were partying, wasting our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you took the big journey to the continent and relocated there at the age of 23.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can share with us a little bit, if you even had problems of taking action, if you also wasted time waiting for the perfect conditions, or how was it in your case?
Mm-hmm. So for me, it was yeah. First off, thanks for the intro. But for me, it was more like when I made the decision. I was very clear on it, you know, because the first time I also have like a German and Eritrean roots, basically. Yes, so I'm also mixed and grew up in Germany. And when I went the first time, when I was quite conscious, I think with 19, I went to Uganda the very first time, and then the second time I went in, I think it was 2021, actually to support my uncle with his journey to like figure out what he wants to do in Uganda, to invest in Uganda. And when I went with him, and I was at the second time, somehow I realized that actually I'm not only looking for him, that I was like, hey, wait, I also want to do this myself. This sounds super interesting and fascinating, and I want to see what kind of things I could do here. So it was the first time I realized that I'm also looking for making a move myself and starting a business on the continent, you know. And I think once I made the decision, even on this, I think it was 10 days on it, on this 10-day trip, once I made the decision as well, from there on I was clear on it, you know. I was very clear on it. I started planning everything, even if the planning phase took a long time. But I also had to finish some things in Germany first with the work and business over there. So I had a lot of things to do. But I think from the decision to actually making that move, it took me 11 months, if I'm not wrong, something like that. 11 months, maybe a bit longer, maybe let's say 13 months in total, from making the decision to preparing everything and then to go on and moving with my bags. So it took me, let's say, a year approximately. But I'm always, most of the time, like, I just, if I know I want to do something and I know, even if I have no clue how to do things, I would just go for it. I figure it out along the way and just make it possible, and even motivate people around me also to do the same thing, to push for what they want. They're like to move with me to achieve this goal, basically, you know. But I know there are certain times, it's now sounds very easy, you know, but of course during these like times of preparation, sometimes there were some doubts here and there, you know, like sometimes you, or like I let some things slip because of course life also gets in the way, you know, because I was also very busy at that time. I was working a lot, like really much a lot, 7 days a week, like most of the time, to really like save money, to build the business also with my family over there back then, and to then still plan the move and prepare everything, get my documents together, whatever was needed, you know. So during these times, sometimes you are actually, it's tiring sometimes because you don't see the reward yet, and the goal to move was so far away in the beginning. And I understand that sometimes doubt is there, or like you think it's not the right timing yet, or yeah. But in the end of the day, when I made the move in January 2023, just to fast forward now, it's was then rewarding, you know. Then I saw the fruits of my labor, basically, because all the work I put in before, in this year, and even before that, you know, they finally came to they carried fruits, basically, you know. Because then I was here, I was ready, I had more energy because I was now in a new country, new continent for me, where I've never lived before or like did business before. So it was hard for sure, but I would say it's 100% worth it. It was rewarding. It was just, yeah, it's beautiful, you know, to reinvent yourself as well, I would say. But
Mhm.
yeah, but I know you also had a different kind of journey, you know, like you made
First,
moves.
first, first, I have another
Sorry,
question. I'm
go ahead,
very
go ahead.
curious now because you said from the moment you made the decision until you moved was 13 months in between, right?
Mhm.
So I'm curious to know what happened, or was there a specific moment, anything that you learned or that happened that made you make that decision? I'm going to move to the African continent. And I'm not sure you were in between Uganda and Kenya, but I think at that time you already decided for Kenya, right?
No, a bit later, you know, like how it came together was, like I said, I visited family and was looking mainly for opportunities for my uncle. And because I had such a different background than him, he wanted me also to help him, to support him with this, and just look through things through my perspectives. Um, and during that time, when I was looking for options for him, what he could do, and like how to tackle things there, and like networking myself, and like just seeing what actually, like how it looks like to do something there I realized that I wasn't, at some point I said, not looking for him only anymore. I was like, this is also something that could suit me, you know. And I
Mhm.
was torn between these two places, like Uganda and Nairobi, or like Kenya, because I have family also in Uganda, and so it would be a different starting point, you know, like I would have been much easier for me. Sorry, the cat here is yeah, doing too much. So it would have been a different starting point, you know. Like it was, I on one side in Uganda, I would have had the support system, especially if you go to new countries. It's not easy if you don't know anybody. But eventually, like I think after Uganda, I went to Dubai with another uncle of mine, and at that time there was like the World Exposition, you know, like the where they had all these different countries from all over the world, like presenting what they are innovating in right now, what just what's going on in these countries, you know. And there I also went through most African countries actually in that time. And for me, what sparked the most interest was Kenya, you know, because they were the furthest from what I found there in terms of development, at least from what I looked at, in terms of tech. And they had like all the, how do you say, like all the things I needed to live and to start my business in what was also when I came here first in the tech space, you know. So yeah, this was for me. I made the decision actually in Uganda, you know. So I had 10 days in Uganda, had no clue that I will move, and after these 10 days, I was like, well, I will make this move, and then my whole focus shifted on making this possible. If that answers your question.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
And then the second question I have is, honestly, now I want to know honestly from you, when you
Mm,
moved, when the moment came to move to Kenya,
mm.
were you fully ready in terms of like mentally, financially, logistically, in terms of having a place to stay? How was the situation?
Yeah, I would say like how do you define being ready for this? You know, it's like I of course I always could have had more money. I could have spent more time doing different things. I could have mentally prepared myself more from back home. But I would say like the moment I arrived, I didn't have everything figured out. I knew a lot of things because I was in Kenya for 2 weeks as well. That time connecting with very many people before I moved, and like even before I even went to Kenya. So I tried to get as much in as possible. But in the end of the day, I feel like I couldn't be ready because once you start a life, once I started a life here, things are different anyways, you know. So I went for the first week, for example, into an Airbnb. In this 1 week, I was hunting for apartments every day to find like a more long-term option, for example. And then I spent 6 months in this house. It was a furnished house, and then in these 6 months, I figured out the next step to move into an unfurnished house where I'm living in right now for the last 2 years. So things happen gradually, you know. Like even the money part is like I said, like I had some money saved up. I worked a lot. I saved some money to make this move, but when is enough? You know, what would have been enough? Because in the end of the day, I came here also to do business, and for me, I like maybe it sounds reckless, but I need some kind of I needed some kind of pressure as well to like be here and just figure things out as I go. You know, because things are anyways different. You can research for now. What I learned is like you can research for a year. You know, we researched for a year and like made the connections, traveled here once, but actually being on the ground is the biggest game changer possible, you know, because in these first 1 2 3 months I learned so much more than in 1 year of research, you know. So I think, yeah, there's no definition for being ready to make such a step like this, you know, especially like maybe it's also a different case because I was alone, you know. I was 23, I was alone, I had no family, I had no kids, I didn't have to care about the schools for children or like for health insurance too much because I am anyways young. So like I just figured things out along the way, you know. But if you come with a family or something, it might be a different scenario, you know, because you have more expenses for schools, you need to figure out how to make more money maybe eventually, or like how to build a business here as well, like quicker than I had to do because I also had remote income. So like there are all these different factors I think that are important to consider when making such a decision or such a move. But I think in general, just to conclude this, is like you will only know you will only know if you're ready when you're doing it. You know that this is what I have learned. You know, you cannot know that you're ready before you made such a step. You will only know once you arrive and you are in the process of making things work. This is at least my one of my biggest learnings in this instance. If that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
Mm,
I think you touched on a very important point, which is responsibilities, right?
mm, mm,
Not just for yourself. And like, for instance, when I look at my journey,
mm,
and I know many people can relate, it's, you can find 1,000 reasons why you're not ready yet. And some are valid, right? Absolutely valid. Like, for instance, I have made the experience myself, and I just, a friend of mine came from Germany and stayed here with me for a couple of days. And we talked a lot. She also wishes to leave Germany behind and move to Kenya. And I could see myself in her when she said, Winnie, I have 3 jobs. I'm working like a donkey, but in the end of the month, nothing is left. There's nothing to invest. There's nothing that I could put aside, to relocate. Because in the beginning, even if you start a business, right, you will not make money right away. It will take some time. And so when I look back, I was in the same exact place. I was working and I was struggling. I had the dream to relocate to Ethiopia at that time, but I knew if I want to make a living there, since I have 2 children, I must be able to pay for their school fees. And, when you want to have a good education for your children on the continent, you have to pay. So at the same time, while schools are, for free, while you don't pay for schools in Germany and in Holland,
Mm.
the international schools that you pay for on the African continent are 1,000, a million times better than the public schools in Europe, I would say, in terms of what they are teaching, in terms of like the activities, the number of children in one class, And so I felt I'm not ready, I
Mm.
need more money. And so I can understand that money is an important factor for many people. However, you will not solve this issue by taking another job, a fourth job, a fifth job. It's kind of a vicious cycle. The more money you make, the more money you lose, somehow. And even, yeah, taxes, you get taxed differently. But and then just, there's so many other reasons why you feel you are not ready. One story that reminded me on myself back then was that of one of our community members who is
Mm.
right now in the process of getting rid of her stuff, selling everything, and moving to Rwanda, right, from the UK. And whenever I talk to her, I again see myself in her, because when you have a house, an apartment in Germany or in the West, right, there is so much material things that you have accumulated over the years, and that you also sometimes feel an emotional attachment to, that you cannot, like, things you cannot detach yourself from easily. But I think, that's sometimes when you, and that's the thing with everything that you want to start, right, with every goal that you have, whether it's going to the gym and losing weight, whether it's starting a business, whether it's relocating to the continent, or just moving to a different town and a different neighborhood.
Mm.
It can be very overwhelming if you look at everything at once. It's like standing in front of a huge mountain, right? And looking at the peak and thinking, how am I ever going to get to the top?
Mm.
But what helped me instead was, setting milestones and action steps that bring me closer to my goal. Like, as if you have different peaks on a mountain, right?
Mm.
On the first day when you want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, you have the base point at 1,000 meter where you camp, and then the next day take the next climb. And when you just climb, and stick to the plan, it makes it so much easier. It makes it so much like the journey so much digestible if you know what you have to do. And I believe that what helped me was making the final decision, same like you. I'm moving to the African continent, and in my case, it was a little bit different because I already had the residency for Ethiopia. I didn't even consider other options other than Ethiopia.
Mm.
And I think what was a game changer for me, and the moment where I really said, I'm going to do that, was a Senegalese friend of mine who also lived in the same town of mine in Germany. And I always admired her. You know, I always looked up to her. And this is another reminder that you should surround yourself with people who are where you want to be in life if you want to reach your goal. And this was such a case. And she was in a program, a development program, where the German government would fund your relocation. You could choose if you want to relocate permanently or if you want to relocate for 6 months. I think the shortest was 1 month. And it was a project where you have to work in your profession, right? So they were looking for professionals that would work in a company in their home country for capacity building. And the goal of this project was skill transfer, so that you bring your skills to your home country. And you could only do that in your home country. And inside that program, they were funding the relocation and transition to, I think, 6 different African countries. Kenya was among them, Ethiopia, Tunisia, and Morocco, I think, Nigeria for sure, Cameroon for sure.
Mm.
And so and Senegal. And she had done that project to Senegal and then told me about it and said, I could see you in this project. Why don't you try it out and apply, you know? And then she connected me with these people, and I applied, and then I got approved for this project. And, you know, when you come so far, at a certain point, there's no point of return. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. You're just in motion. You just do things. You just
You
start to
just
do things. Yeah.
Exactly. And I wasn't ready, you know. I maybe had 600 US dollars on my bank account. Okay, I had my Amazon business, but it wasn't going as I wanted to, you know. It wouldn't have been, it maybe made me 1,000 or 2,000 of euro profit a month, which would have never been enough to live in Ethiopia, you know, when I want to keep my standards. Yeah, I think that was one point where I felt like I'm not ready. I don't even know what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it anyway because
Mm.
I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting for the perfect time. I wasted so many years, and the perfect time will never come. And I
Mm.
saw others doing it and it inspired me. So I asked myself, why not you, Wayne? Why not you? If they
Mm.
can do it, you know?
Mm. Mm.
And the moment I signed the contract, right, that was with the Ministry of Tourism and Culture, where I went as a consultant because I have studied and gained experience in that field in Germany. I started then selling my stuff, going to flea markets, detach myself from, you know, things like my favorite leather jacket, my jewelry I bought in South America, things I felt like I never wear them. I just carry them from A to B. Just take what is necessary. And I think I practiced and learned a new habit of detaching yourself from things that do not really serve you, do not really, you know, bring more value into your life, but are more kind of like baggage, you know, dead weight.
Mm.
And the more I got rid of these things, right? And then it was the sofa, and then it was the cupboard. That's
Mm.
when you realize, wow, when it's about to go down, you're not even ready. But I was scared, to be honest.
Mm. I can imagine it. But then one question: how did it feel then? To because before you were also not ready for it. Just to maybe elaborate a bit on it. Like if you didn't feel ready from like before, and then making the decision and starting to pack up your things and starting to plan for this journey, you know, like how difficult was it from like going to like I don't know if I can do this to like okay, it's actually I'm doing it and it's I'm moving soon, you know, like how was the difference in feeling?
Um, so I think what made me very insecure was at that time I mean, it was kind of motivating and also at the same time really making me insecure, the political developments in Ethiopia. And so, in the media, there was this big hype, a new
Mm.
prime minister was elected, Abiy Ahmed,
Mm.
and I am from the Tigray region. And he is, I think he was, at least that's how he was perceived, and how he was like presented to the outside is that he's Oromo, right?
Mm.
And so for me, these ethnic labels never meant anything because I was born and raised abroad in outside of Ethiopia, I just saw myself as Ethiopian, as an African woman, right? But I
Mm.
was well aware of the conflicts in the country, and that for 30 years that my ethnic group was in power until he came to power. And I was so happy about that. I was so
Mm.
happy to see someone from a marginalized society is coming to power. And I was thinking, because he had these visions and developing Ethiopia, and I don't care where you're from, as long as at this point I don't even care if a non-African comes and governs Ethiopia, as long as the person knows how to do business and brings the country back on track and stop the whole wars. So I didn't care where he came from, but on one side I thought, okay, the first time, always this, when you see it in the media, the first time a woman is elected, right? I was excited like that also now with Tanzania, right?
Mm.
Back then. And same with him also. I was so excited to see a shift, and at the same time, also was the first time that a female was became the president of Ethiopia. And then seeing these two holding hands, walking together, it signaled a new era in Ethiopia for me.
Mm.
Everyone was so excited, except a few that who were rightfully critically, who were reserved. But there was like a big shift. A lot of diasporas returned to Ethiopia to invest. And I think that inspired me. That's when every time when I saw someone moving, investing, I always ask myself, why not you, Wayne? You
Mm.
know? But at the same time, what made me insecure, and this is what I mean, it was a double edged sword. There were people who warned me about the political developments and who told me, you are irresponsible. You are reckless for moving to Ethiopia now, even with two children. Are you out of your mind? Can't
Mm.
you see what's happening? And I must say, I was ignorant. I didn't see what was happening, but
Mm.
also because I wasn't so involved in the politics. And I also followed a hype. And it was crazy because those people who warned me, they were busy selling their assets, their properties,
Mm.
and desperately trying to leave the country. And I was desperately trying to get in.
Mm.
So I had mixed feelings of hope,
Mm.
faith, but also insecurity and fear.
Mm.
But what gave me ultimate security and helped me to make the decision, I'm going to do it anyway, even though
Mm.
I'm not have the finances that I have now, was because, first of all, the job at the Ministry of Tourism was limited to a 6-month assignment. So
Mm.
I knew if it doesn't work out, I still have the option to come back, right?
Mm.
And secondly, what I did, what really helped me, was to map out my best case scenario and my worst
Mm.
case scenario. And that was really the game changer for me in the end. And that's what I did. So I really wrote it down, and that's what I really recommend to everyone. I wrote down the best case scenario. Okay, Wayne, you're going to Ethiopia, work for the ministry. The salary was great. I was
Mm.
paid well for 6 months. And then I have my little savings, and then the money that I'm making from my Amazon business, I want to invest it into starting something there. I want to start a business there. And at that time, I just started an online course, a training, Airbnb training program. And I thought, okay, this is something that I could do there easily, you know?
Mm, mm,
So, and the best case scenario is I stay in Ethiopia, I live my best life, I build wealth, I grow my business, I reconnect with my family, you know, live life um, more closer to my culture, my roots, not so disconnected like in Ethiopia, in Germany, where even siblings don't have time to visit each other because everyone is busy, you know? So I
mm,
had vision. And then I had also the vision. Imagine when you live in Ethiopia, you can, you know, just 1 hour flight and you are in Mombasa, enjoy the Red Sea, the
mm,
Indian Ocean. You fly to Zanzibar, you fly to South Africa. All the places that you love are so close. Who cares about Europe anyway? You just come, and then also hopefully your mother will follow you, which happened actually then, you know.
mm,
And the worst case scenario was, okay, it doesn't work out. After the 6 months ended, I am still not making money. My business failed, and I returned to Germany. And then, even if I don't have money, I knew my relatives would support me in getting, I mean, the flights were even paid, you know, by
mm,
this organization round trip. So I wouldn't even have to worry about a flight. I would come back to Germany. As a German citizen, I could apply immediately. I would get social welfare. They would help me because I have children to find a housing for free. They would even give me a package, a furniture package. And then I just, you know, the worst case scenario is starting to work as a waiter, you know, somewhere
mm,
in a cafe or restaurant.
mm,
That's when I realized, my God, that's what so many of my friends are doing till today, working as a waiter, you know?
mm,
And so that's when I realized my worst case scenario is not even that bad. My worst case scenario is someone else's best case scenario, you know?
mm, mm,
So that's when I realized, wow, Wayne, you have much, much more to win than you have to lose. And that sealed my decision. I said, I'm going to sign the contract and go. If that
mm.
answers your question, it was a long answer to a short
Yeah,
question.
no, sounds good. But I totally agree as well. Like just to hit on the last part you said, I think at some point I also realized the same thing, because when I left Germany, like of course the businesses for my family I was working in, they of course wanted me to stay work with them, but they of course also supported my decision. But then I was also thinking there's so many people I've worked with already, and when I would fail or I would have to come back and maybe save some more money to try again later on or whatever my plan could have been in that time, I think the worst case oftentimes is much less worse than we imagine, as you said. It's like either you just do the same thing that you did
Mm-hmm.
before, you find a new job in the same industry or do something else and just continue from the point where you were before. So like what is there actually to lose and what is there to gain for me, like and even you come back, even if it doesn't work because it's not easy. I also heard many stories of people who failed, but this was it's part of everything. Like I also had my failures here in the few years in the beginning, especially. It's very difficult, and it's totally normal, but you still win experience. You gain experience, and for me this experience makes you so much stronger and so much wiser, more powerful, and that you fail in something. Like there's one thing I also learned is like that the only way you can actually fail is if you quit. So, and this is, for
Exactly.
example, your example, like you had to go back to Ethiopia, to Germany at some point, but you didn't give up. You prepared the next move, and now you're back again. And this is for
Yes,
me
yes.
like this you cannot fail. If you don't give up, you
Mm.
don't quit, you cannot fail at all. So this is something also what I keep nowadays in my mind and tell people. Like there's so much, we have so many fears oftentimes, and there's, I don't know, we sometimes tend to give up and leave things too early, and say, "Ah, it didn't work out or we failed." And even if there were like another 100 possibilities how we could have maybe fixed this problem, or like how we could have getting back on track, we just sometimes get stuck in this and say like, "Ah, it was maybe too difficult or it didn't work out and let me just go back home," or whatever it is. So that's one of my most important learnings as well in regards to this. You cannot fail if you don't quit.
Mm. Yeah, you know, and this whole idea about failure, I think that's what holds many people back,
Mm,
is that they have, in my opinion, a wrong perception of failure. They have to change how they see failure. That's what helped me.
Mm.
Because as you say it, you only fail when you quit. And I'm going to be bloody honest with you, right? Most people sadly will want to see you fail. Okay, that's the sad truth. And I experienced this firsthand from the people closest to me, right? And I learned to not take anything personal anymore, but I understand and see where it comes from. Because when you see others, choosing courage over comfort, when
Mm.
you see the person next to you, a person where many people, they think, oh, she's doing all this, I could do this as well. If I have even more potential than her, I look even better than her, I have even more money than him, I'm more smarter than him. Just wait for it. If I start, then it's over for all of them. That's what people think in their mind. But um that's the power of starting even when you're not ready. Even there's always someone who has more than you. But somehow we see people who have less than us winning in life, right? And that's because they stopped waiting for the perfect time and started taking action. And when you see someone taking that step, being so courageous and doing the things you wish you could do but you can't because you're so scared, many people, they resort to like very negative emotions. And even if they cannot show it, secretly wish to see that person fail, because then they can say in the end, when that person fails and returns, aha, you see, I told him so. It's not easy. That's why I didn't do it. It's so affirming in the end, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah, sorry.
and and then it's just, if that person would have and wins, right, they would have to admit that they never even tried. They would have to look in the mirror, and they're not ready for that. So they rather hope that you will fail so that they can be right in the end, instead of, it's an ego thing. And that's also what I feel that that holds many people back. I had one time an email where someone told me, my relatives, they don't believe in my dream of starting a business in Africa. And I would love to do that, but I'm scared of failure. And what I read in between the lines is that that person was not really scared of failure, but was more scared of hearing, I told you so, And so I think that's an ego thing. You have to
Mm.
get out of ego. Let them talk, because when you win, they will either claim they have always supported you, or they will ask you how you did it. And it was the same with me. There were so many people, and it was so painful. I'm still not over this fact that even people that I loved, that were closest to me, my blood people, some of them were saying, you will see, she will be back in a year. She's always like, she's too arrogant. She thinks she can do everything, right?
Mm.
And I must say it's painful, and very vicious in a sense. And then when it actually happened, when the war broke out, as you mentioned, I had to return from Ethiopia. I started the business, right? I was running the Airbnb so successfully. I think I was the best Airbnb in Addis Ababa at that time, fully booked. Then came COVID, right? It made it very difficult, but I was able to stay booked during COVID while hotels were empty
Mm.
because of how I re strategized myself during that time. Then came an internet blackout because of political and social unrest in Addis Ababa. So that was also a very difficult time. I had to learn how to navigate an online business without Wi-Fi, without internet. I didn't know if someone booked, but I found a way around it. And then came the war that changed our lives. And it's crazy because yesterday was the 5-year anniversary that the war broke out, that no one wants to talk about, that killed almost 1 million people, so many innocent lives lost. and that forced me to also me. I lost relatives. I had to return to Germany overnight, leave everything behind, and I think people who were waiting for my failure, they didn't realize that you only fail when you quit, right? And so one thing, and to get back to this topic, the biggest learning that I made, right? I did all of that while I was not ready. I started when I wasn't ready, but I still, in fact, succeeded during my time in Ethiopia. I was able to keep my business profitable during COVID, during a global pandemic, during internet blockade, during a civil war, the time when I was in Germany while the war was happening for 2 years, right?
Mm.
I learned how to manage everything remotely, right? Under the worst circumstances. And what I learned was if you need the perfect conditions to start and to succeed, the moment the conditions change, the moment things will get difficult and rough, which is almost guaranteed in every business, right? There's always ups and downs. But if you can't succeed and navigate challenges and need perfect conditions to succeed, the moment things change, you will quit. You will quit. But what I learned, and that's what I learned from my whole experience there, if you can start and succeed, even when the conditions are at their worst, right? You will succeed in any situation, under any conditions, everywhere. And the best reminder was last week. You know, in Tanzania, there was an internet blackout after the elections that ended in violence, right? For a week, I had no contact to my staff, but my Airbnb was still running smoothly. Guests were checking in because of the systems that I built, you know, the systems that Ethiopia forced me to build during internet blockade and remotely managing it,
Mm.
the business. This is what helped me to now. We always had perfect conditions in Zanzibar from the moment I started. And now is the first time nobody expected that things will shift in this way, you know, in Tanzania.
Mm.
And I know so many Airbnb hosts, they are overwhelmed. They were almost about to quit. They are scared, you know.
Mm.
While I was so relaxed, calm, confident, you know, because of the experience that I gained. That's what I actually was one of my biggest lessons, I would say, Marvin, in my journey. You know, if you
Mm.
start when it's not easy, you build resilience, you know, you build true grit, and you can succeed anywhere.
No, it's I 100% agree. The question also for me always is like, what are the perfect conditions you are waiting for? You know, what is it exactly? You know, because sometimes we say we need more money, we need to work 5 more years, we need to wait for this and this to finish, and whatever. Then the next thing comes up. There's always a cycle of cycle where you're waiting for something to happen, but you're basically just not making the decision to actually pursue this goal. You know, like to pursue and making this happen. You know, that's why it's always now when I talk to people, always or like as you know as well, I try to talk them out of like waiting for things. Sometimes even they wait for things they don't have a control over. You know, it's like, what are you even waiting for? Like what is this specifically? You know, like they if you're able to define what you're waiting for, sometimes then we realize it maybe doesn't even make sense. You know, because we're just basically just saying no to the thing we actually want to do instead of just pursuing it and taking small action steps towards this goal. You know, if we say,
Mhm.
for example, I want to save, I don't know, like $10,000, and then I will make this move. This is very clear. This one you can achieve quickly, you know. But oftentimes the definitions or like the it's so vague. It's like we need more money. But what does it mean? How much do you actually need? When is this point in time reached when you say like, okay, now I am ready to pursue this? You know. So it's yeah, it's we just put ourselves like stepping stones in front of ourselves sometimes because we hold ourselves back, you know. And also to touch on what you said earlier with like the what other people think of us, you know, like, and this is, I would say, the most normal thing. And I think also we are like conditioned that way. We like all of us, we have this, that we are of course seeking validation from people, you know, to say like, okay, you did well, okay, you're doing the right thing. But especially with a move like this, what you did or like what I did here is like, it's not everybody is supportive, because not everybody will understand like how you see things and how life here actually is and what you could achieve here. For most people, Africa, or to go back to Africa, doesn't make sense at all, and we just have to be the first one to prove them wrong. And also, not we shouldn't do it because you want to prove them wrong, or like it, because it doesn't matter in the end of the day. Even if you, in your case, you went back, it didn't work out because of the reasons you mentioned. And but who cares what they say? Because you gain more richness in terms of wisdom. You learn so many more things, you have more experience, you're still further ahead than they are, while they were waiting to tell you, you did this wrong and I told you so. What is their benefit? They don't even gain anything from it. They still, now, even like you made a second move, they're still in the same position, and maybe still are waiting that you fail, but for what? They're not focusing their own energy on like maybe progressing in life or like coming further. It's more like they just seek their own validation from like saying I told you so, even when they don't even know anything about these things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, yeah, I like that you mentioned these things. Sometimes, or most of the time, what holds us back also what hold me back, like or like what made me think sometimes about like my decision when I wanted to move. I was always clear and like very yeah, clear about my decision. But sometimes when conversation like this with other people come up, they're like, hey, why don't you just make your money here first in Germany, and then you move later, you can live like a king or something, you save more money, you live very well there. Or what do you want to do there? There's nothing. There's, what business do you want to do there? Like, what is there even? Can you get they just were like clueless about life here, but still giving you the advice on things they had never any touch points with. And from
Mm-hmm.
this time now, since I moved them, now I understand that these advices, they are meant well, but they don't hold any value or any power to me, because I would rather talk to people that made the same step or like made the same experiences, because they can give you a true perspective of how it is or how it was for them. And not taking not advice from somebody who never actually moved out of their hometown or something. How can they advise you on moving to the African continent or back home? This is also something I would say I realized in this instance. It's like, really, some people will not understand, and we have to accept it. And then we just rather focus our attention on talking to people, or like either talking to people who understand us, or just putting this energy, instead of like defending our own decision, just invest it into make this work and make this possible, I would say. Yeah, it's another
Absolutely.
lesson. Yeah. Yeah. Mm,
Absolutely. Like that's also one thing that I learned. I stopped explaining myself to people who are committed to misunderstand you.
mm,
You know, they already have their version of you in their head. They already have their, limiting beliefs of what is possible and what is not possible. And they will try to, you know, gaslight you even. They will try to project their own fears and insecurities onto you. And that is why I stay far away from that and I stop talking to people overall. What I do is my energy attracts people when I now speak here on YouTube or on social media, that it attracts people who are really inspired. Because when I
mm,
share my story, there's always people who, there's some people who will be skeptical, right?
mm,
Is that really true? Then there will be people who feel jealousy and envy. And then there will always be people who feel inspired, a select few. And the select few is what I'm doing this for. And I'm so happy because, Marvin, we found the Homebase Africa community 2 months ago, right?
mm,
And when you move to the African continent in the beginning, it's a lonely journey. Okay, you have to know that it's a lonely journey. You will walk this journey on your own. You will don't expect people to support you for the very reasons I've mentioned earlier, right? But you know what's the beautiful thing? Along this journey, you will attract the most beautiful souls. You will inspire people who will want to walk this journey with you. And that's when we started Homebase Africa, manifested in this beautiful community from people with people from all over the world, 20 different countries. 2 months, I can't even believe it. I feel like we are family. Like
mm,
when the Hubbards came last week from the US and we welcomed them in Kenya, I felt like I'm meeting my sister and my brother, you know? So much love and this unconditional support and belief in each other and the unshakable belief in the power of collaboration, you know? That's what I learned. Like there will be people who you will lose along this journey, right? Because they don't bring you closer to your goal. And yeah, that actually brings me to a very important point. But let me finish the sentence first, just to give
mm,
you hope. There will also be people that you will attract along the journey. And so I think what really, really helped me, Marvin, right?
mm,
Because we are talking about how can you start even if you're not ready, right?
mm,
What really helped me was, I think it was the moment when I joined the first, there was a meeting for those interested in joining this development program to work in Ethiopia. And there was a meeting, I will never forget that. It was in Bonn, in Germany. And it was for Kenyans and for Ethiopians.
mm,
They gave the information about this program. And there were some Kenyans speaking on stage. They were so inspiring. I will never forget this woman's speech, right?
mm,
Um, all of them with the goal to bring their knowledge back, right? So
mm,
it was a purpose driven project. You bring what you learned in the West, your education, your knowledge, your experience to your home country. It's about rebuilding your home country, giving back. So much. I was so inspired. I was, for the first time, I think I was surrounded by exclusively by people. Every single one was inspiring. I almost went crazy. I was like,
mm,
wow, what a game-changing event, what a game-changing circle, you know?
mm, mm,
And after that, I think that is when I made up my mind, right? And said, okay, this is the right way for me. I entered a season of no. And I think it's so important if you want to achieve your goal and move to the continent
mm,
that you have to enter the season of no. That's what it's called. So, but what it basically meant for me, it meant no to everything that distracts me and that doesn't bring me closer to my goal. I said no to parties, no to alcohol, no to, you know, no to people who have negative and limiting beliefs. So I distanced myself in a friendly way, you know?
mm,
Sorry, I'm busy. When you tell people, when you start, I will never forget my first trip to Kenya, Marvin, when you
mm,
welcomed me to register my company. Got a call, please, we want to see you before you leave. Let's hang out, let's have some drinks together, blah, 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 blah. I said, no, I can't. Sorry, I'm busy. So 1 week until I fly, I have to prepare a lot of things.
mm,
2 days later, the other friend calls me from that circle because they probably said, come, try to get her so that she joins us. Wayne, please join us. Let's have some drinks. Let's hang out. Hey, I already said I'm not coming. You know,
mm, mm,
what's wrong? What's wrong with you guys? Third call, 2 days before. Hey, please join us. It will be we have a blast, trust me. This one is coming, that person is coming, that one the person is coming. And I really, really want to see you before you leave, you know? And
mm,
it was just a trip for 2 weeks, a preparation trip to register the company. I said, you know what? If you want to see me, why don't you drop me at the airport? I said,
mm,
because I'm leaving the kids with the father and I'm here with the luggage. And so you have a car. I don't want to take the train actually. If you can drop me, then we can at least, you know, spend some time. Okay, when is your flight? Sunday morning. And they wanted to hang out with me on Saturday night, right? Oh no, you know, actually that's the only day where I can sleep out. I know I will be drunk and so I will be so tired. I
mm,
said, okay, no problem. But don't ask me again if I'm joining you. I made up my mind. So you will see, even if people don't mean it, they don't have any bad thoughts about it, but they don't understand your journey. They don't understand your goal and what it takes
Mhm.
to reach that goal. And that's why you will face a lot of like attempts, people trying to distract you.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important to say no to everything. And I think, Marvin, from your experience, as you know, maybe you can share your experience. It doesn't stop once you reach the African continent, right?
No, it gets worse and worse and worse. I think in the beginning, especially if you don't use, yeah, if you're not used to it, Like I think also, like I've been in a season of no for a very very long time already. Like I also like focus is one of the most important things for me as well. Like just do one thing, focus on this one thing. If you really want to make it work, then do this and make this work because it's possible. And the all the reasons why we say it's not possible, at least most of them, they are like just excuses for me. Like. And that's why I think here also, like you get so, especially for me, because I was in tech, I was in e-commerce, I consulted different businesses, people had interest. I'm also was a foreigner here in Kenya, or am a foreigner here in Kenya. So people, they want, or they offered me more business opportunities, and like, would you think you can work on this venture, on that venture, on whatever, I have this opportunity, whatever it is. And even here you really have to have your focus, like even when I arrived here in the beginning, people were like, hey, Nairobi, here you have to go out every day, you have to come out with us, you have to come drinking with us, you have to check out this club and this bar. But I never went. I told them straight, no, I will not go there. I'm here for a different purpose, and I just focus on my things. Even if they asked me three, four, five times, at some point I said like, hey, no, I think you know the answer. Ask me for anything else in the morning. We do something productive, whatever it is. I join you, but don't ask me to come out at night. I need to be focused. I wanted to be focused, and there's so much distraction back home in Germany or in any other country. But here you have the same amount of distraction, and even I think sometimes more, especially now when I translate this into business lessons as well, because people just, at least from my experience, they want to do so many ventures with me. They want to offer you everything because they think when you're diaspora or like from a different country, they think you bring it with you a lot of money, you have different knowledge, you could do something together. But for me, it's really just important to stick to your plan, in the beginning. Even if you have to be adaptable, you change some things, but don't say yes to everything. Because this is what also took me out for a while until I understood this. Like there was a time I think I was working on four different businesses, I think. And I was working also, I woke up very early in the morning, 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning. I started working almost immediately, worked the whole day until 10, 11, 12 midnight, like very late. And then next day, the same thing again, this for weeks and weeks and weeks without any breaks, because I am determined, but I just took on too many different things that were not my main purpose. And if you lose track of your own vision or like your main purpose, what you want to do, then it's very, very easy to get distracted and to not get anywhere. At least that's what I felt at that time. When I then understood this and heard lessons from people who were like much further than me, older, more experienced, also in the business world, and I heard their stories. Then it clicked for me, and I understood that I have to cut out all these different things to just say, okay, this is what I need to do. I say no to everything else, and I spend 24 hours just on this one thing to learn, to grow, and to make the most out of it. I would say, yeah. So
Mm.
distractions, I would say, they're really, really dangerous for everything you want to do.
Mm.
But if this is your vision, your dream, you want to start an Airbnb business here, or like you want to move to the continent, whatever reasons you have, if you want to do this, really just don't let any voice from the outside tell you anything, that's not doesn't it's not important to you, and then just do it. Do it. Don't say it's too difficult or it is difficult. What do you need to do to make it work? Like what is it specifically that you need to do? And once you understand, you have a clear roadmap of everything, it becomes also much easier, because I just need to get this paper, I need to prepare this, whatever it is, and then you can just go in with a tunnel vision and realize your goals and like make it possible.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely, absolutely. And that is like I said in the beginning, right? we are all one decision away from changing
Mm-hmm.
our lives. One decision. And when I look back, right, and look at my journey of relocating to the continent, it was not easy at all. I failed the first time. You know, the worst case scenario, even that was not in my head, I could not even imagine, happened. A war. I was shocked, and I think it almost broke me because, you know, Habesha people, Ethiopian people, Eritrean people, they are Sudanese people. They are one of the most humble and kindest people in the world, right? And I couldn't grasp, I couldn't comprehend how is it that one of the most bloodiest wars in history also simultaneously happened in this region, right? It doesn't make no sense, right? And sometimes, like when you try to understand something, there's some things you will never understand, right? So don't waste your energy and time on that. But what I want to say is that I failed, right? But that's when I learned I didn't actually fail. I was in the process, you know. If I would quit, if I would have come to Germany, and that's what many people do, right? They move to the African continent and then they fail. And then they come back and they blame the continent. They blame the people. They say, oh, you know, you can't do business in Africa. You can't do business with these people. Everyone wants to take advantage of you. Instead of taking accountability, right? And so even though I was not responsible for the war that broke out there, I I would say it was maybe not the wisest decision to move to Ethiopia at that time. I could have moved to a different country where it could have been much easier, but God knows, who knows how that would have ended, right? And the fact that I tried again shows that I was in the process. I came to Germany, saw all these people. They were still stuck at the same place, right? They saw me as someone who failed, but I gained so much experience, wisdom, you know, resilience, while they were still in the same place, still in the same jobs they hate, still in the same toxic relationship, right? Still unhappy, unfulfilled. And I saw, immediately knew when I saw all the negativity, right, that I'm just resetting, I'm re strategizing. And I immediately started working on a new plan to move abroad, right? And what I realized is, and what I want to, you know, tell everyone who's scared, who doesn't feel ready, right, to move to the African continent, it will be hard. It will be hard. Overcoming your fears and insecurities, entering the season of no, being able to say no to the things that is not easy. It will be hard. Learning the skills and building the habits, you know, to succeed with your goal on the continent, it will be hard. There's nothing that we have to sugarcoat, okay? But guess what? Staying stuck in the same place for 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and then in the age of 60, looking back and thinking, wow, I regret I never tried. I have to admit, I never tried. Now I'm here, I'm sick, I don't have the energy and power to do it anymore. And that person who had the guts to do it, who chose comfort, courage over comfort, she did it, she succeeded, she's happy, I'm here, I never even tried, is also hard. Admitting that, looking back in regret, knowing you wasted your best years, you wasted your potential, is also hard. So I always say, choose the heart that builds you freedom, you know, choose the heart that gives you the life that you want to live. It's a simple decision that you can make. Both both decisions are hard. Taking the leap, taking action, and staying stuck. So I rather choose the heart that when I look back, I know I tried, even if it didn't work out, knowing I did my best. And I think that's
Mm.
also a very important lesson that I made and that I
Mm.
want to share with you. Marvin, what do you think? Then we slowly close down the session for today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I said, as you said, I totally agree with this. It's like any choice or any path is hard. Like maybe one path is more comforting right now. I could have stayed in Germany and like just did my work, continued working on the business and everything, and I wouldn't have had to fail many times. Even when I came here, I failed, or like I was also facing a lot of challenges. Like at some certain points, I had also little money left. I was also like kind of like, what am I doing now? What is my next move now? I was It was difficult, very difficult. I could have chosen to stay back home, to stay in comfort, but maybe in the long run this would have been hard for me to say like, I could have done so many different things. Now the experience I made there, like nobody, no comfort could have given me any of these experiences. Like I'm so much more confident. I learned so much more about the continent, about business here, about life here, about myself here. And even if this was hard, I'm so thankful that I chose this hard way, like this harder route, what seemed maybe impossible in the beginning, or like what seemed just to be so far away, but what now is actually the life I live on a daily basis. And choosing this every single time over the comfort is, I think, what I prefer as well. As you said, it's like I rather try to become the best version of myself by doing just everything I can, trying everything I can, no matter how hard it is, than like regretting something later on and saying, I could have done this, I should have done this, or like I don't want to miss out on these things. That's why it's like it's so important for me also, especially for younger people. Like now I'm also still young, but I think I at least can share my experiences with all of them. Like now I'm 26, but for me it's always like, do for me the most extreme things possible. Try it. Try it. Don't wait for don't wait for anyone's permission. Don't think it will be too difficult, because you can solve every problem. Like it's the same thing. For example, when a child falls down, the baby learns how to walk. They fall, they get up again. They fall, they get up again. They keep trying until it works for them. And the same thing, I think the same mind we should have as well. What is the worst case? Just do the hard things, and you will thank yourself for actually doing this in the future. It's at least my perspective on, especially for the young people, and even for everybody else as well. But I think especially for the young people, because sometimes what I see from like friends or like their younger siblings and stuff in Germany, or like in other countries that I where I know them, it's the fear is holding people back. And I would say confidence comes from competence. And the only way you can get this competence is by doing things, trying, making mistakes, as many as possible, even to then gain this confidence that you can say, now I could say, I think I could move to any country, I would be
Yes,
fine. I can do
absolutely.
some, I can do everything what I want to. That's at least how I feel now. But 3 or 4 years ago, this wouldn't have been me. I couldn't say that like so confidently. So yeah, I think that's for me also very important for everyone listening to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have a last question. What you just said is perfectly sums it up. The confidence comes with
Mm,
competence, right? Not the other way around.
mm,
So you gain confidence by doing things repeatedly and mastering them. That's what brings confidence, and that's what I went through with the
mm,
first time failing in Ethiopia. Now, having established a successful, profitable Airbnb business in Tanzania, in Ethiopia, and now settling here in Kenya, I feel like, because sometimes people ask me, Wayne, can you actually ever imagine moving back to Germany? And I see here someone asked, have you thought of just going and coming, like spending time in both countries, working abroad while building a business at home? Um, so I go back and forth, but one time a year going to Germany is enough for me. I go during the summer season to visit family, but this option going back and forth, I think, will be difficult if you want to build a serious business, because you
mm,
need to be on the ground. Depending on the business you do, you want to start, there's some flexibility where you don't need to be on the ground for a year, but sometimes like a month is enough, right? And so no, I cannot imagine to ever go back to Germany, I tell them. And to answer your question, I never thought about going back and forth either, because I don't like the lifestyle in the West. I don't like it. I don't want to be involved in the nonsense that is going on there. Things like racism, you know. I feel like for the first time, these things doesn't concern me anymore. I'm so, you know, I'm just more happier here, not having to focus on things that doesn't make any sense, and just focusing on building my business, living my life, and yeah. So I cannot imagine to go back. And I always tell them, because of the experience I made and the confidence I gained, even if it doesn't work out here again, Africa has 54 countries, and I have built the confidence that I know I can succeed anywhere, because
Mhm.
I succeeded under the worst conditions in Ethiopia. So if I choose Senegal tomorrow, I know I can learn French. I speak a little bit from my school time. I understand, so it's easier to catch up as compared to someone who was never had to do with that language. And there's so many francophone African countries. Any country, I can succeed. And now the last question I have to you, Marvin, is the
Mm.
same. Can you actually imagine to move back to Germany? If not, why? How is your thoughts on that?
Mm. I would say also no, because I've been here now for almost 3 years, and yeah, I feel like as I mentioned before, like all these points, like I feel like I built here so much more confidence. I feel so much more comfortable here, and like I experience, for me, like growth is very important, like really getting out of my comfort every time, every day, and building something that is really going beyond me and like really pushing myself to the maximum all the time, like learning new things, whatever it is. And I feel like just by comparing the time I had in 20 years in Germany and like now 3 years in here Kenya and like traveling across the continent, the growth I experience here is so much deeper, it's so much bigger, it's so much. It just gives me so much more, It just gives me so much more. I feel so much better, and I actually feel like now here I'm having a real purpose. We as also with what we do now together with Homebase Africa, we can actually share only what we have learned ourselves and help people with this to also fulfill their dreams. It's so much more meaningful and has such a deeper purpose for me than everything I could have done over over back in Germany. I would say, even if it's not impossible to also build something meaningful there and to make money there, whatever it is, but I just feel like I belong more here, and this is just what I also feel like. I get up more excited every day. I'm hungry, I'm ready, I'm still like on in the first couple of months or weeks, like I want to learn everything, to understand everything. I'm still very curious, and I just love being here. I feel very, very comfortable here, I would say. So visiting, yes, once a year. I have family there, but more than that, I don't see myself really living there and relocating back there. I would say my life is now is here on the continent. And I don't know if it will be Kenya forever. Like I'm here for almost 3 years now. Might be a different country, whatever. But I feel like right now I see myself definitely here. Definitely here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marvin.
Mm.
Last thing, very
Mm.
last thing. If you had one advice from your experience
Mm.
to someone who feels stuck, who wants to move to the African continent, wants to start a business, but doesn't know where to start, and is still waiting for the perfect time or conditions. I know we talked a lot about how we overcame this feeling, but if there's one advice that you would give to that person, what would you tell them?
So this again depends on the situation I think you're in. Like how are your circumstances. Like, but I would say most of the time, what I see is like either if it's diasporans or if it's people who never travel to the continent but still have the dream and vision of it, is I would say the easiest thing to really see how you feel about life and building something there is just by traveling there once, like, and spending time there with the mindset of like, okay, could I actually live here, because not only going with like the tourist mindset and maybe just visiting the beaches and like saying going to different bars and hotels, whatever. Just go with the mindset of really, how could I live here? Could I see myself living here? Maybe understanding then as well the rental prices, everything that comes with life, and talking especially to a lot of people, like meeting people. This for me, just going back to my story as well, it's the same thing that I spent 2 weeks here in Kenya before I moved, and then I had another couple of months preparation time to actually come here. But these 2 weeks were the most important time of the entire 11 months to a year of research I have been doing, because there I got really the feeling how it is to be here. I connected with the right people to see, like, with people that make the same experience that also moved from Germany. I connected with many locals that are doing business here just to understand really how is life here, like, and trying to experience it. And this was for me the game changer. And I would say this is for most people really, it's an easy step. Just take, at least, even if it's you only have 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, just take this time, have a look, and leave these tourist glasses perspectives at home and come here and really try to experience life and see how you feel here, I would say. I don't know if your advice would differ, but this is, I would say, the main thing I would give away.
I mean, I already, my number one advice that I shared already is what I also shared with my friend just recently is working on that goal, right? Entering the season of no, investing in yourself
Mm,
to build the skills and habits that you need, right? Is hard, is not easy, but looking back, and also maybe I didn't mention is having no escape plan, having no plan B when shit hits the fan, because I'm not sure if people realize that, like, when you look at how the global politics are shifting, how
mm,
inflation is making life much, much more harder in the US, in Canada, in Europe, how people have, how things are getting more expensive, but the salary remains the same, how right wing populism is on the rise, right? How there is more, much, much more like, I feel like there is a shift now that the developed nations, the so called developed nations, are experiencing a decline, and we see like clearly the telltale signs in the US of the
mm,
fall of empires. And when the US goes down, they will drag Europe down with them. That's for sure, right? And now I just recently saw in the news that Germany wants to introduce again the mandatory military service, for males starting from the age of 18, because, Russia has, for the first time in 20 years, I don't know, entered NATO space. And, there a lot of provocation is going on here and there, and uncertainty, fear, instability. So I'm telling people, when shit hits the fan, no one is coming to save you. No one. Only you can save yourself.
mm,
And the best way to save yourself is to start now building an escape plan. I'm not a fear monger. I don't like that. I'm just saying it's always good to buy options, because you never know. You never know. And so I tell them working on that plan is hard, staying stuck, having no way out later when the ground shifts, or just admitting that you never even tried, and that you have to admit to yourself that you could have done more,
mm,
and I think what's so painful about admitting that you could have done more, you could have reached more, you could have done better, is that I think the most painful part is that you lose a little bit respect for yourself. You know what I mean?
mm,
And so I think that's the hard, for me, that is a harder part. So choose the heart that gives you freedom, builds generational wealth, legacy. Africa has also its problems, but we have to choose our battles wisely. And I would choose struggling here sometimes with a power cut of 2 hours, or no water for 3 hours, a million times over the comfort of living in the West, living from paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, that's my number one advice I have to people.
I just add one last story to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Before
please,
I
please.
moved, yeah, before I moved, I was talking to someone as well. He was very, like, he was supportive and excited that I make this move, but he also had no touch points with the continent. He never been here. And one of the questions, most important questions he asked me was like, okay, but if you start a business now, how do you handle if the currency has a strong inflation and stuff like this? It's like, even if this is important, yeah, okay, it might make sense to think about it once you make money, but I think sometimes people worry about the wrong things, because, for example, he would have planned, okay, now if inflation is too much and like my money loses too much value, I will do A, B, C, and D. But he doesn't even know how to make a single dollar in this country. You know, he doesn't even know how he what business he starts, what products to sell, what service to sell, whatever it is like, and how to convince the people to buy this product. So sometimes we worry about step number 10 if we don't even know the answer for step number 1, you know. And I think also this is what holds us back sometimes, just to add to what you said as well. It's like
Yes,
we focus sometimes too much on what is way too far ahead and worry too much about these things instead of like just taking one step at a time and solving problems as they come up, you know, because there's always new problems that you cannot anticipate. And even if we tell you exactly what problems we face, there will be things you are not aware of that will be different for you, you know. So just one step at a time, just take the action, you know, like don't make it too difficult for yourself, don't solve all the problems because it's impossible anyways. Just do
exactly.
it, you know, just go for it. Yeah, now I'm done with my
Yeah.
thoughts here.
Maybe I close down with a
Yeah.
beautiful. My mom is always, you know, how our African elders share their views and teach us, lecture us about life. They bring up stories from village life. And
Mm,
that just reminded me on such a story. My mom said there was once, yeah, in the northern highlands of Ethiopia, in Tigray, where she's from, there was a woman, a husband, and a wife, and they wanted to, yeah, for the Easter holiday, sacrifice a goat and wanted to buy a goat, right?
mm,
So before they even went to the market and buy the goat, they started an argument. The wife said, "Where are we going to keep the goat? I don't want to keep it here because it will shit in my garden." Then the husband would say, or I think it was about slaughtering, "I don't want this place to be full of blood." Then the husband said, "But we can do it here." I don't remember in detail anymore, but the message is clear. They started fighting before they even bought the goat. So they focus on the wrong things at the wrong time.
mm,
And they ended up eventually not buying the goat, you know, and not celebrating
mm,
this Easter feast. And so, yeah, that really was a good reminder.
mm,
Don't focus on like hypothetical things that you don't even know will they actually happen or not. And as you said, that's what keeps many people stuck, you know,
mm, mm,
because they, instead of living in the present and focusing on the things they can control, right? They the things that are out of their control, that they cannot even predict, you know, that nobody can predict,
mm,
are getting so much into their head that they, you know, kind of like are unable to take action. That like
mm,
kind of, how do you call it, jemanden lähmen, that paralyze you, you know,
mm,
that paralyze
mm,
you from taking action. Same like as the fear, oh, what happens if this happened in that country? And as you know, in Africa, there's sadly many people who wish for the worst, right? Who predict the worst. But
mm,
I always say, and I think with that I end this talk. I really believe, and that is what life has taught me, that the future belongs to those who have the courage to build it. And I strongly believe that Africa is where that future is being written. So with that being said, Marvin, thank you so much. I
thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Mm,
And please subscribe to his YouTube channel. The description, the YouTube handle is in the description below. And if you want to join us, if you want to be part of this powerful community and movement that we're actually building, Marvin, I think we should do another live, hopefully tomorrow, where we talk about how our Homebase Africa community is now slowly becoming a powerful movement, right?
mm,
Um, if you want to join us, if you want to be part of this circle of people who support each other, we do weekly group calls, right? And where we answer all the questions, where you get direct access to us, where we help you step by step, mentor and guide you to build your Airbnb business, your short term rental business on the continent. Then click the link in the description to join the Homebase Africa community. And there is a 30-day money back guarantee, no questions asked, because that's how much we believe in the value of this community, that you can join. And if you say it's not for me, after 30 days, you can say, send one email, you get your money back no questions asked. I hope to see you inside the community and be part of this movement. And with that being said,
See you
have a
there.
lovely Thursday. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.